the jail, when they were placed in different detention cells. The damage had already been done, even though their legal teams arrived quickly. Others with knowledge of the situation claimed that both men were troubled by the fight, as well as by realizing how far they had fallen. Jim Cameron kept pacing while sitting with his head down, wondering how it had all happened. Everything was the quiet after the storm, and it spoke more than any fist could. Jill Santana, who was getting dressed in his dressing room when the argument began, reportedly tried to convince a crew member that Jewel wasn't acting this way. But by the time he got to them, it was too late. He tried to mediate once he saw things turning heated. "Not after everything we've been through, man." His voice broke as he witnessed two of his closest friends being hauled away by cops while being carried. Sources claim that he was upset by the image, so he broke down on stage and needed consolation from his team. The tour's sponsors pulled out right away. Concert promoters began re-evaluating potential Dipset gigs as fans requested refunds. Industry sources conjectured that this may be the final nail in the coffin because they were already struggling. One promoter said that ICE had warned that this may be the end. As drama fans quarreled about who was at fault, social media only heated up. Cameron was accused by some of being overly domineering, while Jim was accused of being aggressive and insecure. There were voices calling for calm even amid the chaos. But regardless of the side individuals adopted, there was a strong sense that it might be done. A number of singers shared their grief on social media, wishing for harmony and a breakup before it's too late. Make it right. Hip-hop requires everyone, as demonstrated by the community that developed when the dust settled. Whether Cameron and Jim would hear those remarks or not was uncertain. There was no doubt about that. Nothing would be the same in the world. And just when everyone thought the drama had reached its climax, something unexpected happened the following morning. And just when everyone thought the drama had reached its climax, something unexpected happened the following morning. On the internet, a voicemail leak began to circulate. Jim Jones allegedly recorded the voicemail just hours after the altercation when he was still being detained in prison. Jim's voice was low, tired, and pained. He talked slowly as though he were struggling with every word. "Cameron doesn't even make me mad. I'm angry with myself," he added, "due to the fact that we disappointed the supporters." Dig deep. The tape, which at first no one could confirm was real, spread like wildfire by lunchtime. Major hip-hop fans had mixed feelings about the captions that websites were posting, which included "Jim Jones regrets everything," and "The end of Dipset hits harder than we thought." Some felt sorry for him after hearing the regret in his remarks. Some questioned if the message was a cunning ploy to get funds, public backing. Behind the scenes, though, things were far more chaotic than anybody had expected. Chadden released a statement. There wasn't a single tweet, Instagram story, or even a mysterious post. According to those close to him, he was furious about the fight as well as how quickly Jim's camp had started to repair the damage. He thinks Jim is trying to twist the truth. An insider claims that Cameron feels duped once more. In the meantime, Jill Santana was doing everything he could to keep things from collapsing completely. He began contacting me in an attempt to appease both sides. Cameron and Jim, though, weren't ready. They both overreacted emotionally to the problem they resolved. Even Freaky Zicky, who had usually provided the comic relief, became quiet. His team issued a brief statement expressing their deep regret at the events and urging time to recover. Even worse, in addition to harming Dipset, the brawl had resurrected old wounds in the hip-hop community. Artists who had previously expressed admiration for the ensemble. Some people voiced their displeasure. Others related stories of past disputes they had personally witnessed. On a blog, an unidentified producer stated that he had witnessed Cameron and Jim fight about money years prior. A tape session revealed that the brotherhood had been dissolving for some time. The illusion of togetherness that Dipset had tried to preserve abruptly came to an abrupt end. Then came the security footage. New footage from the venue's backstage security camera was captured late that evening. The footage from this fan clip was clearer than the others. It showed the moment Cameron shoved Jim into a stack of speaker cases, causing him to swing back and topple a table. In the film, the violence was muted, but it was obvious. Fans were horrified when their heroes behaved in this way. More footage showed crew workers racing to break up the fight, with Jules entering to try to get Jim away and a security guard forcing Cameron back into a wall. When the video resurfaced on the internet, Hashtip's statement that a fall and Wajar cams him became a hot news trend. Retailers seized onto it, analyzing every frame as though it were a sports replay. Body language experts even think that Cameron's stance betrayed a deep-seated discontent. Jim's gesture became a media spectacle as it revealed emotional weakness. Interview requests were made, memes went viral, and the fight was even brought up on talk shows. Behind the scenes, the effects were becoming increasingly noticeable, even though it was the week's most important pop cultural event. To pay for the Die Pet tour, the label placed everything on hold. All reunion-related merchandise was removed from the shelves. Contracts were frozen, and upcoming activities were canceled. One source claims that the state of affairs is a financial catastrophe. Jim was blamed by the Cameron team, alleging everything had been wrecked by his wrath. Jim's team criticized Cameron and said he was captured because he was controlling and manipulating. There were dozens of staff dancers and tech crew members at the center who had been relying on the trip for their employment. Cameron, who is well known for his fierce clapbacks and nasty language, broke his silence after being abruptly laid off. 2 days later, he posted a single Instagram message with a blank screen. Sometimes words are not as powerful as silence. The fans were bewildered. Did it have any shade? Was it accepted? Was that the comment's final chapter? A lot of conjecture was generated. Some people appealed for a ceasefire. Cameron's passive-aggressive behavior was screamed at by others. During a brief, extremely agitated Instagram Live, Jim Jones said, "We're supposed to be legends, not a headline. I feel ashamed of the way I behaved. I lost my temper, but I'm not alone." As was to be expected, this just made matters worse. Cameron fans accused Jim of gaslighting. Jim's fans backed him, saying at least he was owning up. Amidst all of this chaos, Dipset's legacy was slowly disintegrating. Uncertain about the audience's response, songs from Dipset were taken off some radio stations. Daily playlists. Answer: since MUA and whole episodes were devoted to the debate. Several podcasts said that this was the most widely reported group breakdown. Others compared it to autumnal June. This is the result of allowing ego to run amok over an extended period of time. When one presenter mentioned that the biggest twist of all took place, one woman spoke out and claimed to have witnessed the fight, which she said had nothing to do with music. It is related to a woman. She said that fresh information has brought back the tension between Cameron and Jim Jones, who had a love involvement with the same woman throughout the years. A court discovered that Cameron had secretly contacted her again, which was the root of the argument. Backstage, the internet didn't care that her story wasn't real. It popped once again because it was hot, scandalous, and the precise sort of twist that followers enjoy in memes. People joked that Dipset would be the next reality TV drama, calling it a failed love triangle, as they presented the conflict. Others expressed their disapproval, saying that a woman should never be the reason to ignore decades of history. However, the tale was once again changed by the anecdote, regardless of its veracity. They were seeing more than just a group breakup. They couldn't take their eyes off the lives they were witnessing as they happened. Jim and Cameron were now both out on bail, but the judge also ordered them to stay apart until the case was resolved. The irony was not lost on men who had not traveled. The world were no longer able to be in the same room. Lawyers were involved. While the damage control personnel worked around the clock, the hip-hop community waited to see what would happen. Asterisk. But this time, there was no humor in his posts. His quiet was more powerful than words, despite the fact that he wasn't posting. However, he may have added that Jim Jones was more vocal. His Twitter profile had many comments on the matter, expressing remorse to Cameron, as well as to friends and followers. Despite the challenging route, I'm growing and learning. His tweets did not fully convince his fans. Some people applauded him for owning up to his mistakes, while others thought it was a ruse to win back the love he had lost. Sincere people take responsibility for their errors. But it doesn't change the fact that the damage is done, a fan commented. However, Jim, we won't forget what transpired. The contradictory answers just served to fuel the fires. Nevertheless, there was a sensation.